Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Welcome, widget weavers and wisdom seekers. Prepare for a pulse-raising podcast with the captivating co-founding director of the Nutrition Clinic, Pooja Vig. She's a foodie fortune teller, making magic with microscopic understandings and mammoth passion for functional medicine. We're diving deep into the DNA of her heart-led health haven, the Nutrition Clinic, located in Singapore. So buckle up, tune in, and digest the delicious details of her brain-boosting biohacking journey. Pooja, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for that incredible introduction. Thank you so much for having me on this.
Well, I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit more about nutrition. That's one of my little hobbies. I love talking and geeking out on nutrition, but more importantly, how you're leading your clinic as a heart-led business. So if you could just describe to me like what your definition of a heart-led business is.
So for me, and this is from my perspective, for me, heart-led means it is really what drives you to run a business, what drives you to wake up every morning and do the work that you do. It's been a passion first that then grew into a business. I became interested in the space of nutrition, lifestyle, and what it can do for you when at the age of 35, I was told I can't get pregnant. So I was put on IVF route, didn't like the way that felt to me. And there was this voice in my head. There was the sense that I'm supposed to be doing something different. At that time, I was working in VC. I was investing in biotech startups. It was a great job from a travel, fun, young person. I enjoyed it on a level, but it didn't connect. It didn't feel like this is what I was meant to do. And when I quit that job to figure out what's going on with my hormones, it didn't. I look back now and I think, gosh, that was really brave and courageous. I don't know where that voice came from, but there was a voice that said, you're meant to do something different. And this is a problem you have, and just jump in. I don't even think I thought it through like that. I just jumped in. So I quit my job. I researched everything I could. I went back to my roots and I researched everything I could around the space of fertility, the chemicals that impact fertility, the nutrients that are needed, the lifestyle that's needed. This stuff wasn't available easily. It wasn't available online in, the kind of courses we have today. I ordered books. I got in touch with researchers out of the UK who were doing this as a project. And I put myself on a series of protocols. And at 38, I got pregnant. And at 38, when, I also realized it was absolutely amazing that what I set out to do worked. But what I also realized at 38, I felt so much healthier than I did at 28. Something had shifted deeply in order for that to happen. And that's really where this work comes from. It's that sense of connection. So for me, heart-led is, well, what's the connection? What's the why? Why do you do what you do? And similarly, when I work with a client, why are they feeling that way? Why are they not getting the results they want? So for me, it's always about why. I'm always asking why. So why was I in that job? What do I want to do? It's always back to the same core questions that lead the direction that I go in. And it's not even something I'd really thought about till you just asked me that question. I think it's just been very intuitive. And I guess that is heart-led, when it just feels like this is the right thing to do. And I'm not sat down and made a plan to do this, but this is what's going to drive my next decision.
It seems like everybody that I've been interviewing, that's the very similar, almost exact same scenario. They were in a situation that it wasn't their calling. And now they're in their calling, you're in your calling. And I bet if we saw pictures of you back in your 20s when you were working in VC versus pictures of you today, I bet there's a big difference. Is there? Like in terms of just your overall aura or just spirit?
Yeah, I think I just wake up feeling really happy and excited about what I'm doing. I'm always reading about this stuff. I'm signing. Even today, I had to stop myself from signing up for a new course. I'm like, where is the time, Pooja? But I want to know more, and I didn't feel that way then. I wasn't excited, and I think that excitement is not something that you can always plan to have or predict. But I think if you're paying attention, the voice is within. And I know that sounds like something everybody's heard at some point, but it's when you experience it that it becomes very real.
And the old saying too of if you do what you love, you're never going to work a day in your life. Does that
Yeah,
resonate with you?
absolutely, absolutely. I think for me there isn't the separation between work and me, and that is fantastic, but it's also perhaps a problem because I sometimes need to create that sense of, okay, work has ended. You don't need to keep studying about this and that because there isn't that separation. This is what I kind of do for fun. I
Yeah.
read up about this for fun. So that absolutely is very true.
That's great. So there's got to be challenges though when you're following a passion, but there's business things that you have to do. You have to market, you have to sell, you have to do accounting work and all the non-passion stuff. Like how do you
Absolutely.
balance that and what surprises have come up from, being a heart-led business versus a profit-led business?
So, I would trace this back to when the business started. As I said, this was a passion. I had a passion, I had an interest, I had this sense of I need to do this because I need to figure out what's happening with me. I did not do that thinking I would set up the nutrition clinic. I did that as biohacking, as figuring things out for myself. And then I realized I could never go back to the world I was a part of earlier. I had to do something within this space. But just because you know what you want to do and within a certain space, it doesn't mean it's all going to just magically happen. I was very, very lucky because I set up the nutrition clinic with a very close friend who came in as a co-founder. And that's another part of being a heart-led business is the people who get involved with the business. I think we've never had to sit down and talk about the values, why are we doing this? But it was very obvious to us. This was about doing something that showcases the power of nutrition. It was also about a business that was started by two moms with very young kids, where we needed that sense of balance and we needed to be able to manage, being a mom and running a business. And so without her in the nutrition clinic, there would not have been the nutrition clinic, not in the form I know it today. There might have been a different version of it. It might have remained more of a personal interest. It may not have become a business. So part of that is the reality of the people, of the resources you need to turn this idea into a business. And there's no running away from that. You need that. And I was extremely fortunate that this incredible person came into my life and we set it up together. It also made it a lot of fun to have a good friend set up a business with you. And so even the team I have today, I think we're all driven. We don't typically sit down and discuss, is it passion, is it profit, but we're all driven by the same goal, which is, for me, the goal is everybody who engages with me, who comes in as a client, they have to get their results. I am obsessed with their transformation. We have a system that is end to end, that is systematic, where we track their progress on a regular basis because I'm as invested as the client is in their results. And I think that's, another way in which it's heart led because ultimately that's what matters. Somebody's coming to you and engaging with you because they're on their journey. And if I can help them on that journey, then I've done my job.
Uh,
If I've just shared my knowledge and it doesn't change something for them, it's just nice to know, then I don't feel like I've done my job.
Oh, that's cool. Resonates so deeply with me as well. For me, that's the heart-led business is someone that puts the client first and the results of the client comes or that's why they're coming to you in the first place is to get that result. And that's what drives the business forward. And of course, there is
Absolutely.
always kind of the business side as well. So I want to go back to what you said about bringing a co-founder and a partner into the business. Is there a separation between the two of you in terms of somebody is doing kind of that marketing, sales, kind of the businessy stuff, and somebody else is doing the customer facing more of the actual delivery things? How does that work for you guys?
When we started the business, we were both actively involved, and we did sort of share the work and looked at where the strengths are and did that. Today, she's not actively involved in the business. But yes, that was very much how we started out. We brought in different strengths. And that kind of created that framework, because there were certain things that she was able to do that really were not in my wheelhouse at all. And I'm very happy to say there's certain things I do well and there's certain things I don't do well. And so, yes, absolutely, you do need that. It's probably tempting to try and do everything, especially when you're starting out, but it's a very slippery slope in my opinion, because the burnt out entrepreneur is a real thing, and the burnt out practitioner is also a real thing. So you have to be careful with that you are able to separate not just work and life, but also really own what you do well, what you're willing to stretch into, and the areas that may not be accessible, at least at this stage.
How long have you been in business now?
Oh gosh, 12 years?
Oh, wow.
12 years.
Awesome. Well,
Yes.
congratulations. So you've made it past that 10-year mark, which is usually when, the first 3 years or 2 years is half the businesses fail. And then by 10 years, it's like 95% of the businesses not necessarily fail, just they don't like keep that entrepreneur kind of engaged in it. So that's really great. 12 years is amazing. Yeah, I sold my fitness business 9.5 years into it. So I kind of fit that profile. That's great. So what have you had to learn on the business side that was just kind of surprising, that maybe it was something that you really liked doing? It almost became another passion other than the nutrition side.
I think marketing is something I've grown to enjoy.
Wow.
It's not something that comes naturally, and I still need a team of people to help me. But it's not something I find. I found it challenging to do videos and to get right up front and say, this is me. That's just been personally a stretch for me to do. I'm really glad I've had a group of people, behind me say, Pooja, you need to get out there. You need to do just more videos and make your voice heard, because initially I was standing behind kind of the brand, and there's the nutrition clinic and then there's Pooja. But now I think I'm more comfortable with that. And I think that's just jumping in and lots of editing, and then you kind of get comfortable with it and used to it. I quite enjoy that. It is time consuming. So I have to, get people to help me with that, because I'm not going to be the most efficient when it comes to editing videos and the rest of it. But I really do like that. Yeah. The other thing that I've done over the years is gone from a generalist practice to a more niche practice. And that's partly driven by my own interest, but also driven by business decisions, because I think the kind of world we are living in, there is more information out there, particularly nutrition. And just speaking about nutrition in a general way, I feel it's already there, and it's there in volume. And unless you're able to cut through that, you just become another voice, just saying more of the same. So what drives that for me is the training, is the reason I do all this education. Is when we started out, it was more about sharing with people the power of nutrition. And a lot of that was experience-based, just, introducing them to the kind of superfoods that now have become very easily accessible. Today, my work is very much focused on how can we get information about you that will take you from point A to point B. So it is more around getting these incredible tests that we have access to, where we can read the gut microbiome, food sensitivities, your deficiencies, how you're responding to stress. All of that can be measured. So that's this whole world of biohacking that's just grown massively, and it will continue to grow, right? So like a continuous blood sugar monitor has now become really, most people who are interested in this have access to it and have tried and experimented with it. I think that's fantastic. But I think all these data points also need to be processed and made some sense of, and then they need to be translated into actionable items. So I think we do that really well. We take these data points, whether it's from a medical test, whether it's from a biohacking tool that you have at home, and then the functional test that we have access to. We then collate all of that and turn it into a process. And that has required focusing more, niching more, and saying, if you're interested in this, come to me. If you're interested in something that's different, I don't need to be the nutritionist for everybody. I need to be the kind of nutritionist or functional medicine nutritionist that I can do well. And that's been a learning for me. I think when I started out, there was the sense of, well, I want to do this and this and this. And now it's no, this is what I do really well. And I'm going to continue expanding on that and making that better and finding the people who want that. And I don't need to meet everybody's needs. I need to meet the need of that person. And I think that's been a huge shift for me personally to think that way and to market that way.
Okay. That totally makes sense. When the riches are in the niches or niches, which doesn't really rhyme.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. So how did you come up with that? What happened in the business that you were like, I don't want to be a generalist anymore. I really need to niche down and serve this particular population.
I think in part it was what I was just experiencing myself. I'm focused a lot more on women's health, on the perimenopause community, so women in their 40s and beyond. I started noticing that a lot of my clients who were coming in that age group were dealing with really different symptoms. It wasn't, if you think about gut health or you think about sleep, there are certain symptoms that kind of are on repeat. But in perimenopause, there can be as many as 80 different symptoms that come under the perimenopause kind of space. And so it's really confusing for a woman in her 40s to think, well, what just happened and why did it happen? And I feel like if I can just help them understand this is part of a shift that is real and you're not imagining it, and if I can do something to help them make that transition easier, then that just felt really exciting to me. And the interesting thing is, for the 80 symptoms or more, what I do, the system I use works equally. I don't need to change my system based on your symptoms. It's that root cause work where if you fix things on a root cause level, that one switch will turn on many lights, right? You don't need a separate switch for each one.
Oh, yeah.
So that's been a huge shift.
Cool. And then once you niche down and you were very focused on solving this particular problem, what happened with the business? Like in terms of just numbers and just, number of people.
Numbers have been great, but I think I think the marketing of it is a lot more fun. I think it's a lot more fun to niche and to talk about it. It feels more satisfying. It feels like, and I also think this group of women, the community of 40 and above, are looking for that sense of connection and community. You reach a certain point in your life where you're really crushed between the generations, right? You've got older parents, you've got younger or teenage kids. Work gets demanding, there's more responsibility. I think that person is actually looking for support, but she doesn't always know it. She's kind of suffering in silence for a little bit. And I think once you connect on that level of this is what may be happening and I can really help you with these symptoms, it's huge. And it's huge because I know what she's going through. I've gone through it myself and I know what I can do. So there's so much joy in that and saying, I get this and I can do this. And I don't need to, I must still see people outside of that community. So if somebody brings their kids in, I will see them. I do work with young kids with eczema, for example. They don't fit into that category. It's often the moms who see me and then bring their kids in. And sometimes they send their husbands in as well for this work. But just being able to be really focused and precise is really powerful, I think. And I think the customers are looking for that. I know as a customer myself, if I'm looking for a trainer, for example, I want that focus and precision. I want a trainer who will work with women at a certain age. I want that. I don't want the generalist. And I think we're all looking for that.
Yeah.
So yes, it's been very good for the business to do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
When you look at it like the traditional medical model, you go see the generalist first, and they always prescribe you to go to a specialist. So if there's a special problem, so it totally makes sense to niche down. I'm really glad that you found that and you found success in it as well. And I think you're absolutely nailed it right on the head as well, that the marketing gets so much easier when you have a very specific target that you're going after, because now you can speak their language.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I would love to let the listeners know a little bit more about how they can get a hold of you and some of the special work that you do as well. So why don't you tell everybody where they can get a hold of you?
So we have obviously a website. It's thenutritionclinic.com.sg. We're very active on Instagram. Message me on Instagram and I'll definitely reply. And you can also book a 10-minute time to chat with me and to see if what I do is a good fit for you. But yeah, find us on social, go to our website, message me. Happy to help.
Excellent. And you can work with people worldwide, I assume?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that happened during COVID is, of course, like everybody, we pivoted. So most people see me on Zoom, and the work I do works really well on Zoom. In fact, I find now that I'm encouraging people, even in Singapore, to see me on Zoom because there's so much information to share that just having like this whiteboard where I can annotate things is much easier to explain. And because we're looking at sort of the pathways in the body, just explaining that in a more almost like a classroom style world makes it much easier, and you can get a recording. So that's really good. You can listen to that again and again and see if you've missed anything. So I find the Zoom option works really well. For people who are in Singapore, I do open up face-to-face appointments, typically just for that first appointment. Some people feel the need for that. We do that just once a week.
Okay. And
On
they don't
Fridays.
have to fight traffic in Singapore with the
Oh,
Zoom meeting.
so much easier. So much
Raise their
easier with Zoom
cortisol
meeting.
levels and just,
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
awesome. Well, Pooja, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your story of being a heart-led business and the challenges and the rewards of doing that as well. And I certainly appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for this. It was really good speaking to you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story.
Awesome. And just a message to the listeners, please go ahead and share this episode with your friends and family that could use this type of help and advice. And also don't forget to rate and review the podcast. That does help us get the message out to more heart-led business owners that need that support and need that ear to know that they're not alone in what they're doing and what they do actually matters. Thanks for tuning in to the Heart-Led Business Show.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.